The following was written describing my next guest, the #1 bourbon general, the career cook, the future former rapper, the man with a 96 mentality, the owner of $3 Pistol Music, and much more. He's also describes himself as South Philly's finest crime author. He's Zilla Rocca, and I want to welcome him to the Library of Monaco. Thanks for joining me, man.
Anytime. It's been a long time coming. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. So I was reading up on you, and I got to a 2005 interview where you said you were doing something hip hop related every day, which got me like, what does that mean? Like, we I feel sometimes we throw around the term hip hop or just terms in general, and not really, and people don't really understand what that means. So when you're describing you're doing something hip hop related every day, can you kind of describe to listeners what that exactly means?
Yeah, back then it was the like the whole, you got to grind all the time. Like I remember like the internet was like first really getting popping back then, and MySpace, and I was like running a little rap label in Philly, and like linking up with artists and friends and trying to find videographers and producers and guys that would do graphic design, and then like have meetings and listen for music all the time and grab samples and then work on 2, 3, or 4 people's albums at the same time. And it was just like very focused on getting on. Mm-hmm. So trying to get my label on, trying to get my rap group on, trying to produce for other people, because I always studied like Def Jux heavily, like how they created a movement, first with Company Flow, and then with L, being around really dope guys, and then doing full albums for like Cannibal Ox and other people you bring aboard. So my goal back then was to kind of be like a rapper, producer, but then also like organizer, label head, PR dude, controller of social media accounts. It was a lot. So
yeah.
If I wasn't like rapping and producing that day, I was doing something else, like posting updates on like 7 artists' MySpace pages, or like mailing out like physical like press kits to like labels and promoters and magazines, and CDs out to like the first wave of bloggers. So it was it wasn't just like the creation of the music itself. It was like all aspects of, I guess, the business of rap.
Mm. When did you start kind of, I guess, maybe divvying up responsibility or having to kind of force your, quote unquote, force yourself to cut back on being, having all these jobs?
And luckily, it kind of did it on its own, in the terms of like losing friendships and like losing partnerships, and then like realizing that, wait a second, this person actually, our tastes are really not similar at all.
Right.
We're just really, really ambitious and young, and really want a lot of attention and props and shows and money. So over time, it was just like very like chaotic and dysfunctional, because there were just so many people that we kept taking aboard for our little mission. So I guess by like 2010, that was when I moved on, and I was like, I'm just totally solo. I'm just by myself, in charge of my own thing. And I remember like they asked, I'm not on this level by any means, I get it, but I remember they asked LP, or somebody else tweeted him like, well, you're so dope now, and you've been around so long, like, well, why don't you start another label? Would you do that? He was like, never. Like, I would never start another label. I would never be in charge of other artists' careers and their albums and all, like, because once you just get settled into just being an artist by yourself, after being in charge of like 10 other people or 15 other people, you got to deal with 10 to 15 other people's like drama, headaches, misgivings, insecurities, like aspirations, but you're trying to get on too. So like you're actually competing with them sometimes too.
Right.
And that's really difficult. So once I was able to just be totally solo, and I started my own solo imprint, $3 Pistol Music, then I was like, oh, okay, I can just like make my own stuff when I want and do whatever I feel like, and use all the contacts I've gathered and worked for just for me. I don't need to like, all right, it's this guy's turn for 3-4 months. Okay, then once he's done, I got to cycle in this group and get them out there. So it just gradually got there on its own. And then for the last 8-9 years, it's just been me, and then later on my friends, we clicked up to form Wrecking Crew. But all those guys have been through similar things too. So we all kind of like linked at a later point in our lives and careers, being like, hey, we've all been in bad situations. let's all just kind of hang out and do stuff for fun, and we could all be our own entities at the same time. So it was like the most drama-free new chapter of like having a rap crew, a bunch of friends again.
It's something that's very, for me, very incredible about doing this podcast for the last long time. I think 8 years, but it has been that when you grow up listening to music, the artists are either like I might be in fifth grade and the artist might be in high school, right? So they're more carefree artists at the time. But as you grow up, as we all grow up, we all become adults and we mature, and some of us have families and stuff like that. You're dad now. How has the importance of, or the purpose of the art for you, how has it changed since you joined the group of fatherhood?
That's a great question, man. I thought, like, my last album, Future Former Rapper, when I made that, I was like, oh, okay, like, this will be my last hurrah. Like, I'm about to be a dad, and I can't see me continuing this lifestyle of, going to other people's shows and then rehearsing for a set and then trying to bang out an album with somebody over here and then trying to, just like the amount of movement. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the amount of things you need to do to be seen to maintain relationships and stay on people's minds, in Philly or New York, or trying to book tours. So I was like, all right, well, that's probably going to be over, because I wouldn't be able to do, like, all right, well, I have like a 4-month-old. Let me go hit the road for 6 weeks. Like, I just couldn't. I'm just not wired that way. Some people are, and that's cool, and that's how they make a lot of money. I just wouldn't, and my wife was not going to be down with me being like just gone for right. 6 weeks or 8 weeks or even like 10, 15 days doing shows in different countries or cities. I mean, so I guess it created like the first year my son was born, I just really didn't do anything, and that was like my first time like not spending every day making music in like 10, 15 years, something like that. So it allowed me just to hang out and just like be a person and nothing else. So, I would still listen to music and check for stuff and support people's records, but I wasn't actively like, all right, I need to arrange this. Like, what song goes with this on this? Like, who should I get on this song? Or I need to be at that venue tonight to promote. So now my son's older. He's like 3 years old now. As they get older, things get a little bit easier. You start getting a routine.
Right.
And on my end, it really helped me to learn how to like be very, very, very efficient with time management. So like I don't have, I don't like come home from work and just like sit in front of a computer for 7 hours, and then have like 4 or 5 guys come over and make stuff or hang out all weekend at shows. So it's interesting in like watching like me to make those determinations. Like, here's how this is going to fit into my life right now. And then watching things gradually just shift to work that way. So like a lot of the opportunities I get now are things that I would have killed for when I was like 25, 26. But they didn't happen because I was like very like serious and focused and like very tight and like very anxious and like burned out and right. Not even aware you're burned out. So when you're just more relaxed in general and you're just doing things you really like to do, things happen slower, but they still happen because you're still contributing to the conversation, to the culture of music, to like your local scene, to like your fans online. It's just ways you can't anticipate. It doesn't happen like the exact way you want.
Right.
It's like, oh, I have to go here, and then this will happen. It's like, well, I don't go there, but these other things are happening that I didn't even think about ever. So it's been like more of an organic, like relaxed process versus actually like, I have to get on, man. We have to get on that bill. Oh my God, my album needs to get reviewed. I need to sell. Like that whole wiring thing's out the door.
Are you also kind of experiencing that more of your fellow artists are kind of, they're understanding that you're a dad now and you have other responsibilities, because I also imagine like, you do deal with artists that you've worked with artists that are single or, they could do the 4 o'clock in the morning thing, or they want to record, like, let's say, hey, we have a recording session at 1 o'clock and you're like, well, I can't do it. I have to, my son does the weather or something like that.
Yep.
Are you finding that more artists are actually, are receptive to that? And were you surprised that they are as receptive to that?
Yeah, I think it was like a transition at first because I used to have like the main studio. So, I went to school for audio engineering, and so I know how to like record stuff and mix stuff and do all that and then produce and rap. So I used to be able to be like the main hub for people that want to pay me to do a session, or me and this guy do an album together or whoever. So once I wasn't available anymore, it was like, okay, well, I mean, it's available to me, but only around like the times my son's like taking a nap. And you know what I mean? Like I can't like have, all right, man, come over. I think you're going to fall asleep at 1 o'clock.
Right.
So maybe you want to, well, what if you're going to fall asleep at 2:30? Well, sorry. So I guess it's like for my friends around me, they had to make adjustments to figure out like, well, what were they going to do in terms of like being able just to record. But if I still need to mix and master stuff, yeah, I can still do that on my own and still write on my own. So it's hard for me like to go out and record at other people's places a lot or do more stuff out and about. But I think the good thing is like I've stayed prolific. You know what I mean? So I've been active and current and being in the limelight, so to speak, on like the indie rap wave as best I could without having to run around and put in like the time like I did when I was single. And like also what I've noticed is like when I was single, it's like when you're busy, you get more done.
Right.
And so when your time is like very, very limited between juggling very real responsibilities, the things that need to get done in terms of like the rap fun stuff, they get done too.
Right.
Versus like when I could just like, oh, you know what? It's Saturday. I don't know. Maybe I'll like go to movies by myself. Maybe I'll go to a record store. Maybe I'll just take a nap. Maybe I'll go drinking tonight. Whatever. Like, not the amount of the productivity was there, but like things actually weren't happening. Versus like, okay, I have 25 minutes to record this for this guy. I'm getting that done today. Boom,
right,
that's finished. Okay, like it's amazing to get like how much more focused you are because you really don't have time to mess around. So I think like the output and the way I can knock out stuff and turn around things for people, whether like they're collaborators I don't know yet, or over email or in a different country, or albums I'm working on with guys like Full Throttle. Like I think they understand that, but also like I'm still producing. It's not going to take me like 2 years to make an album with somebody.
And so it's you do have a new album out, right? It's called 96 Mentality. So for listeners, what is the 96 Mentality, and why is 1996 your favorite year in rap?
1996, man. I don't know. It's just like it was like the last time where I was really just only a fan without any thoughts of like, man, I should be a rapper, or like, wow, that's going to be my dream someday. Like, man, like it was like that like little like bridge year because I still thought maybe I could like be an athlete someday and play baseball,
right,
or play basketball. And I was like going into high school and meeting like newer people from all over Philly that I didn't know, because I came from like a very small like neighborhood area in South Philly where it's like you just know the same people, you're around them all the time. Then you go to high school with them, you're around them all the time, and then that's it. So like even going to high school, I started high school in 1996. So like that was like meeting people from all over the area I would never have known, and like seeing what they liked and what they listened to. So like them like give me that first Helter Skelter album, like trading tapes, or like the Lil Kim album, or like Alcoholics, or like just even being like exposed to newer rap stuff that I wasn't checking. Because all my friends in South Philly just like Biggie,
right.
Like whatever, like radio big records like Nas, okay. But like I'm meeting dudes that are like, yo, I love this Outkast album. I love this Master P album. I was like, what? I would never listen to that. So it started exposing me to all that, like Exhibit's album or whoever. And so when I was starting to make this record, I finished Future Former Rapper, and that took like several years because that started and was made before, during, and after I became a dad. And I was like, I don't want to spend 3-4 years making albums anymore. Like I want to make it. Because that was my problem. My problem was always any album you heard from me by the time it was released, it had started like 2-3 years previously.
Oh wow!
And I was like, I want something to come out that mirrors how I feel right now. Not like, oh, I remember how I felt when I made that 3 years ago, but now it's out today. So 96 Mentality was like, I had a bunch of beats sitting around. They all kind of had like a similar feel from all different guys I'm friends with or like wanting to work with, and it just gave me that feeling where I was just like making stuff that I really liked, and it was of a certain aesthetic, like more of like an East Coast traditionalist sound, which I hadn't really done like Full Throttle in a long time. And it just made me feel that way. I was like, yo, I feel like I'm a fan. Like I'm just really enjoying it. I'm not like putting pressure on it, or
nice.
like, man, I don't know if people are ready for this. Like, what if this doesn't sell? Or like, man, what if, like, there was no thought beyond, like, I just want to make these songs and they're really fun. And everything was pretty effortless. Like, I didn't really, like, labor too heavily on any of the music. So, you know, usually I used to be, like very conceptual and, like, have, like, a lot of notes and, like, retrieve things to write from a notebook and, like, a little, like the notebook app on my phone. I would always, like, write down phrases and like sentences and words, and I would like empty them out. And this one I was just like, this beat is hot, I'm going to write to it for the next 20 minutes. Okay, it's done. I recorded. Okay, it's done. And so it was it was a brand new process for me. And so we're now, like, that album started the process of me just I don't write anything down. So everything I do now is like written in my head, like Jay-Z or like Biggie. And it's just way more freeing and fun, and you can get more done that way versus like staring at a computer screen, staring at a piece of paper, like pacing around the house. And so I wrote like that for like 15 years, and now I don't. And it's just like way more. It's just everything's it's like very breezy. It's like a very breezy approach to making the music. And I think the album is like that. I think it's an album you can just like play whenever. Like you play with the sun down. I mean, with the sun's up, the sun's down, your window's down, headphones,
right.
Speakers. Like it's a very like multi-functional record versus other records I made like very moody, where like you should only play it in winter.
Right.
You know, or only play, you know, when you're heartbroken or something. So it's this one's like more wide open, and I guess like that because that's what I was when I was making it. It was just a very like relaxed affair.
In the end of the first track, Polished Figaro, you have Allen Iverson talking about if he came back after death, who would he come back as? And of course, you know, AI says he'll come back as himself. Naturally, of course. What does for, you know? You read about what AI meant to Philly, but what for you? What did AI mean to you as a person, but also kind of if you think about your art, you as an artist?
Wow, that's amazing. That's a big question. So the irony is like 96 mentality, like the whole design, it's all based on the 96 Georgetown Hoyas uniforms. Like the color scheme of the record, the tape design, all that, because that was like, he was the first like basketball dude that was like, everything about me is hip hop. Yeah. Everything. Like tattoos, my like even in Georgetown, he was wearing the patent leather Jordans with the baggy shirt. And it was very unapologetic, whereas, like, other guys would be hip-hop with, like, their sneaker or their socks or their shorts, but not, like, with their hair or, like, tattoos. So I remember, like, seeing him, like, yo, he looks like guys that play ball down the street from me in my area. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's from Virginia. So watching him in college, I was, like, enthralled, you know, because he was so small and he was, like, explosive and he was ferocious. And the Georgetown uniforms were ill, and the guys on his team, like Jerome Williams and Victor Page and all that. And then when the Sixers drafted him, I was just like, oh, my God, like, what are the odds we're going to get this dude? He's my favorite player in college. I had, like, his jersey in college. And so when they got him, it was, like, same thing. Like, he brought all the excitement and energy. And everybody in Philly, like, Philly as a town is, like, obsessed with underdogs because Philly has, like New York's obsessed with winners. Like the story people in New York tell themselves is like, we demand excellence because we are excellent, and everything will work out for us because we are the best.
Except with the Knicks.
And that's what we relate to. You know what I mean? Except for Knicks. But like overall, New York is like bored. Like if you're just amazing but nothing comes out of it, people are like, oh, you suck.
Right.
Who's next? Where in Philly is like, wow, like you're amazing, and even if it doesn't work out, as long as you play really hard and act like you really care about it, then we're going to love you forever.
Right.
So it's like the story, even when, you know, up until the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it's like, well, we're underdogs. That's why we did it. We're underdogs. We got a lot of heart and passion and grit. So, like, he was the perfect guy to exemplify, like, all the stories and mythology, like, Philadelphia fans have been telling themselves forever. And, like, so even him, like, stepping over Tyronn Lue. Like, that image has been on so many T-shirts in Philly, frame prints, you know what I mean? Like people's basement, like you couldn't love him more. Like if they would have beat the Lakers, people would still love him, even though they lost to the Lakers.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like they still love him. They're like, and even the practice thing, like living here. Like anytime you say we're a practice town, people are like practice. We talking about practice? Like that was in 2000 whatever 3. And so, like, that's in our vernacular from that guy. So I think, like, his overall impact was, like, he was deeply, deeply flawed as a guy, where he's done, like, really repugnant, weird things that people in Philly know stories about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but when he's here, he, like, embraces everybody. And he's always been open. Like, he never tried to be too clean. Or, like, he didn't care if you liked him.
Right.
And that's, like, the hardest thing for most athletes. Like, you know, like, they're very, like, polished and manufactured, and, like, really, like, looking at social media to see what people are saying. And, like, they don't like to be criticized. And, like, they just want to be patted on the head and approved. And he's like, I do not care. And I think that's, like, the most brave and bold thing about him. So for all his flaws and all the teams he bounced around, and, like, you know, not the best locker room guy, and, like, people out in this, like, people, like, one-on-one with him have almost always had bad experiences. Like, he's not a great person to deal with as a fan, but it doesn't matter, because he's like, but that's just what it is. And people in Philly are like, people, like, Philly's a very real city. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a very cliche thing to say, but, like, when I've been to LA and spent a lot of time on the West Coast, it's like a vacation. It's like not real. You know what I mean? Like, the people that live there, they're all, like, gorgeous. Like, that's not real. Like, most people aren't gorgeous. You know what I mean? Like, most people aren't actors and having $100,000 cars. Like, that's not real. So people here, like, Philly is the biggest, it's the poorest major city. You know, so we have a lot going on here, but you got to work really hard. Like, and that was Allen. Like, you know, he would get destroyed with a clothesline from somebody. Like, he's supposed to miss 3 weeks, and he would miss 2 games.
Right.
It's like, yeah, all right, man, get up, go. It was like it's like, this is our guy. Even if he doesn't practice, even if, you know, he butts heads with a coach and, like, does ridiculous things. Like, he's like the walking logo in a way that, like, other guys wanted to be and never were here.
Right.
That, like, you know, they couldn't pull that off. So I put him on there just because it was like, I had to, you know, like, he's in there for me. Like it's kind of always lived on.
Would you, and this is, with just a heads up, this is a question from your friend and fellow MC, Prem Rock.
Nice.
If you, and this could be AI that you're going to, this could be the answer, it could be AI, but if you were to kind of compare your rap career to a 76er, either current or former, or historic, who would that be? Would that be AI still?
Nah, no way. No. No, because I was never that, like, you know, incredibly, like, dominant, flashy, like, fierce. Man. I guess the guy that jumps to mind is, like, Aaron McKee. Because he was, like, the steady Eddie guy. So he went to Temple, which is also my alma mater, so I remember watching him in college. And he was never, like, the greatest guy in college. And he was a lottery pick. I think the Blazers drafted him. And then he didn't really do a lot for them, and then the Sixers traded for him, and then he kind of found his role being the sixth man, and he was a guy that could always calm down Iverson. Like, that was the guy Iverson would always respect. And he was the guy, like, making the big shots in big games, hitting corner threes, you know, so he almost never started, but he was like the calming influence that was like, hey, man, everything's going to be okay. And then by the time he left the Sixers, he was kind of like free, like contract fodder. Like, I think he like bounced around like the Lakers and something else, and he had like a lot of injuries and stuff. And then he became a coach. He coached the Sixers for Summer League for a little bit, and now he coaches my alma mater, Temple. But I guess I picked him because it's just like he just never stopped. Like he never had. I think he was always aware of like what he was really good at and what he shouldn't be doing. So he wasn't like, yeah, man, I'm like the next whoever. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be dunking all over you, and then I'm going to be jumping up like and Vince Carter and you and Jordan. Like, he never had that game, but he was always in control, and he was like very like deliberate. Like, he never made like bad plays. He was never getting embarrassed. He was never popping off in the media. But he was never like, a superstar. I think it was always But if you saw him and you understood the game, like he's like so beloved in Philly, just for that. Like, he doesn't, he didn't have scoring titles or all-star appearances, but what those teams needed, he gave it to them. And then every time Iverson would be hurt in a playoff game or something, Aaron McKee would get like 30. You know what I mean? So I think like he's the guy. Like I don't know why he's the first person that came to my mind, and I don't know how that would like tie to me as a rapper, but like I can't like realistically say Allen Iverson because I never had like that brash cockiness to be like, yo, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Right.
Like I was never that person. I was more like Aaron McKee, like yo, I know how to help people, you know, get what they need to get going for themselves, and then I could flex on the side too.
Yeah.
You know, and if it calls for that, I could do it. But I just like that he's always been around it. So, like I said, he went from playing at my alma mater to now he coaches there. He's just always been in basketball. So for me, it's like I feel like I just always have been in rap.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like I can't leave it alone. Like to quote Jay-Z. Two questions, Prem.
I do have a Prem question, but that actually I want to skip over the Prem question real quick too. It kind of that answer you just gave me kind of leads me into a lyric that you spit that I think now makes a lot of sense and in a way that like I'm going to ask you who you're referring to at this moment, but I think your analogy, you know, your comparison there just made sense. So you spit on Live from the Driver's Seat, never got credit for being versatile. What are you referring to in this lyric, or who are you referring to?
So I think when I said that, it was funny. It was like a weird flex for me, but I think it's like really interesting to see, you know, when we get kind of, I don't want to say like complacent or like, kind of like locked. Like it's easy to put like artists, you know, just in boxes. Like, okay, like that guy's like a punchline rapper. That guy's a battle rapper. That dude is like a weird artsy guy. So I don't think I've ever like fit into any of the boxes, which is real original. Nobody really did fit the box, but I've had like the art rap tag put on me, and then I've had like the boom bap is back tag put on me, and that's cool, like because I love that. So I've always loved Andy Kahn as much as I always loved, I don't know, like Biggie, and I've always loved like DMX as much as I love like Beastie Boys,
mm-hmm.
or you know like Puffy as much as I would love like Capone and Noriega or something. And so my output over the length of my career has had like like a lot of different phases and styles. And so I was doing like next level, like 140 BPM stuff in like 2002, 2003. And then I was like doing more like rugged East Coast lyricism stuff. And then I was doing artsier stuff over like indie rock samples. And then some stuff that was like debonair, like Seat of Your Pants, or like Tropicala stuff, or like Bossa Nova stuff, to back to doing like more straight ahead East Coast stuff. So, excuse me, I just think it's I think like when they come out individually, and you kind of like notice with your listenership over time, like your listener base, mm-hmm. they change over time too. So certain people that were down with stuff in like 2007, maybe by 2010, 11 they're gone. But then you get a new set of people in 2011 and through 2014, and they may like dip off or come back or whatever. So I think like the bulk of people that know me now mostly know me from like the last 2-3 years of material. But like when I made Future Former Rapper, which came out last year, that album's the culmination of like every style I had done up until that point. So that album's kind of like a greatest hits in terms of what can I pass off. So there's like, you know, loop driven, like straight up East Coast stuff on there, and there's like electronic stuff on there, there's like weird time signature stuff on there, there's a lot going on. So I don't think like people look at that and be like, wow, man, there's a lot of stuff happening. It's kind of like people are like, that's good. Oh, okay. Well, I like it. Oh, cool. Well, I like this song. Great. Thank you. I like that song too. But it's not like, man, it's amazing, like, seeing you go from this to this to this to this to this. You know, like, that's the part where I kind of said that, like, and then also, you know, doing beats for 15 years and then writing for websites, and now, like everyone else in the world, having a podcast with Alaska and Curly Castro. So, people don't say like, man, like you've really been able to do a lot of stuff. It's just always like centered in the moment. Like that video was great, which was awesome to hear too. You know, like I like these 3 songs. Cool, thank you. That's like the one thing when I wrote that down, thinking that like, you know, it'd be cool to be like someone be like, hey, I've seen all these things. All right, man, way to go. You know.
The track, the end of Spy vs. Spy features Vic Spencer. It's produced by Ray West. Used the late Biggie Smalls' message to young rappers on it. Why did you guys choose to kind of use that message at the end? And what do you think is maybe the biggest mistake 2 Days MC goes in, when they go into the business? What's the biggest mistake they make?
That's a great question, man. I remember finding that Biggie one. There was an outtake from another movie from 1996 called Rhyme and Reason, which was like, I used to run that back on VHS constantly. And so I remember thinking about that. That wasn't a movie. It was like an outtake interview.
Right.
I remember seeing it and just loving like a guy like, because I've always like talked about Biggie on other podcasts in person, how like Biggie broke the game because he was just the ultimate package. Like he could do everything. So he was like the LeBron of rap, because it was like, oh, you want me to do story raps? I could do that. You want me to do songs for the club? I could do that. Bragging raps, got it. You know, death threats, I'm the best at that. R&B remixes, I could do that. Like, he could just do anything. And so, but everyone tried to follow suit because it was the industry. He was successful doing, you know, crossover records and doing grimy records. But, like, no one could do that but him, because no one before that could pull all that stuff off and have respect and sales and money. So hearing him talk about that, being like, yo, just do you. Like, you know, don't just chase whatever's out there. You know, like wearing something that doesn't look right on you. And it's amazing hearing someone say that because he probably had that thrown at him, you know, like when that line, he said, you know, black and ugly as ever. Like, he knew what he was. He had a lazy eye, he had like a light lisp, he was very dark-skinned, he was overweight. And he was just like, yeah, but I'm going to wear these fly sweaters and Gucci socks and Versace shades, like with a cane, you know, and a hat. Like, he looked amazing. He was like larger than life. But hearing him be like, yo, this doesn't work for everybody, what I do. Because this works for me, because that's where this is my comfort level. And the irony was, like, everyone just kept trying to chase what he did or hated him for it, and either went directly in opposition to him and create a whole like niche industry of, you know, indie rap and lyrical rap and backpack rap and anti-commercial rap, or it made people double down and be like, yeah, I want to cut of that pie too. Like, I want to be Jiggy now. And so I think like the art, like, it's harder because there's just no like artist development anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he had like Puffy being like, I know what to do with you. You know what I mean? Like, you are not a sex symbol, but I will make you a sex symbol without having like take your shirt off. Either like go to the gym. Like, he became a sex symbol because he just played up on like, I'm literally larger than life, and I can be on songs with Total and 112, and you know what I mean? Like, I can do all that, and I'm a guy like guys may not want to mess with because I wrote, you know, Who Shot You or whatever. So, but he had you know, one of the greatest producers ever, like, handling that with him, like guiding him on his way. So I think like now, because of the internet and all these outlets, you know, SoundCloud and Spotify and YouTube, like, people can just, you know, strike gold and make a song in their room to impress their friends, and it gets 18 million plays, and now it's like, okay, now we have to sign you. Right. So you got all these things, and we're trying to ride this wave and make some money for the fourth quarter to justify our salaries. And it might take that kid 2-3 years to make something good again. But it's like, well, his SoundCloud was popping for 4 or 5 months. We signed him. It didn't work out. We'll just drop him real quick. Cool. We'll go next one.
Right.
And I think now it's more like you don't have that time, like, to develop. You know what I mean? Like, without sharing everything you make all the time. Like, everything is like instantly. There's no demos.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Biggie had demos. That's how he got on. He had demos. You know what I mean? With his DJ and all that. So I think like that's not there, and I think you know, it's hard to be totally comfortable, especially like in a social media age when like strangers are telling you ain't shit, like whenever they feel like it. You know what I mean? I imagine that's really difficult for someone who's really young. You know, so I guess the hope would be that there is like still like technical producers out there and executives that are doing that I'm not aware of. But I think that's something he and a lot of those people benefited from. That's just gone now. You know, there's no time for that. Everything's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
And from from outside perspective, I see that and I'm like, well, I feel kind of bad for the actual artists because they're just, you know, they're just as good as their YouTube number, right? And then, I mean, as you mentioned, like once that YouTube hit is gone after whatever, it could be 4 months, 5 months, that executive producer, whoever it is on to the next YouTube number, and that one's left to like try to chase another. The old guys are left to try to chase another hit until, and then they're just like doing nothing.
Right. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that clip from like Frank Zappa.
No.
Shouts to my homie Barry, Disco Vietnam, who's done a lot of beats. He showed me a clip from Frank Zappa from the 80s being like, you know why the record, and this is the 80s. He's like, you know why the record industry sucks? He was like, because in the 60s, it was all like old guys chopping cigars with no hair in charge of the labels. And they didn't know what the hell was going on. So they were getting all these crazy records from all these artists, experimental stuff, like deep poetry stuff, anti-war stuff, psychedelic stuff, free jazz. And they were like, we don't know. I don't know. Just put it out. See what sticks. I don't know. He was like, and then after a while, all those guys from that era came up and like, nah, man, we're the artists. We know what it is, man. I tour with this guy. I know this musician. I played no, you don't even know how to do this, man. You don't even know what's going on. And he was like, so it's actually like when the high-nosed, business-minded, quote-unquote, artist took over, that's when it was like, I know how to manipulate this. Mm-hmm. Because I've been in the game. Like, I've been around these guys. So I know how to make a knockoff of this group, to make a knockoff of that guy, to hire the producer to do this. He says, and that's what killed it, because before that, it was guys just getting out of the way, being like, I don't know anything. We just put it out.
Right.
And that's why, like, the best music is from the 60s. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh.
Like, there was nobody in the way being like, no, actually, this is how we're going to manipulate this market over here.
Right.
And it was like from artists that became executives.
Speaking of a producer that I actually really like, every time I hear something by him, it's like I'm never disappointed. Ray West, he produces Spy vs. Spy. How did that collaboration happen, and kind of what do you look for in a producer when you're trying to work with him or her?
That's a great question, man. Ray and I are actually working on a project right now. We have about 2 songs deep.
Nice.
On like an EP or something. I found Ray just from credits, like liner notes. Like I saw he recorded The Bulk of Marsburg, which is like my favorite album of this decade. And so I remember seeing his name on that, and then I remember he got the beat placement on Reloaded, with Mind Spray with Rock Marcy and Ka. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm like, this guy makes beats. I remember him as just an engineer. And then I remember seeing that one album with AG called Everything Is Berry.
Yeah.
And I remember like looking at that artwork being like, I always liked AG because he just kept always just putting records out. Like there was no gaps. He would always be working. So I remember like just staring at that artwork all the time being like, yo, I gotta listen to this joint. And I started playing that, and I was like, I started reading credits. I'm like, yo, this guy Ray West like did this whole album. And then I stumbled into Red Apple's, like their label together and all their 45s, and then his album with OC, Ray's Cafe, and their 12 inches and Party Arty stuff and stuff. And I was like, man, this guy is like incredible. And so I just reached out to him, just as like showing love. I was like, yo, man, like I'm blown away. Like this, I just want you to know, like this shit is amazing. And he responded, and we just started talking. And I was like, wow. And then we just kind of sent each other like care packages of music. So he sent me a bunch of 45s, and I sent him whatever CDs and tapes I had at the time. And he would be bigging it up. Like, he'd be posting it on Instagram or something like that. I was like, wow. To me, I'm like, this guy doesn't need to share my music. I'm nobody. But he's like me. He's a family man. You know what I mean? Like, he just cares about his wife and his family and his kid, and then making music in his basement when he can, and just being prolific in his own way. And so we just kept being cool. And so I asked him when I was making Future Former Rapper for, like, I was like, I really want you on this project. So I had to pick in the beat Drunken History, which he did on Future Former Rapper. And then I got another beat for him on me and Curly Castro's EP called Griff Company. He did a song on there called Short Family. What is it called? No, it's called Smart Family, Dumb Friends, or something like that. So it's like a little interlude joint. And then so when it's time to make 96 Mentality, I hit him again. I was like, yo, I need something like, I need you. Then and I kind of gave him a path. I was like, I kind of need like a something based around the Fugees. What was the song on the score? Another MC loses life tonight.
What is that song?
Oh, that's right. How many mic? Who's that song? What was that? Zealots? Is it called Zealots? I forget the name of that. I'm blanking. Anyway, so he sent me joints And he also sent me the beat for Spy vs. Spy.
Right, Zealots. Yeah, Zealots.
Zealots, right, Zealots, which is crazy. And I always loved that sample anyway because it was like in The Bronx Tale, which is one of my favorite movies, and it's just a great song. So he gave me a beat with that sample, but then he gave me like 3 or 4, and then the beat for Spy vs. Spy. I was like, ooh, this is like, because his beats are very simple. Like, he likes to build up the beat and then strip it down to have it only like 3 or 4 sounds, like the best sounds. So then me and Vic Spencer got cool, and then I sent him a bunch of joints. I was like, yo, which one jumps out at you want to work on with me? And he picked that one. And I was like, oh, all right. So it kind of all meant to be. But when I pick producers, it's like there needs to be an element where like it makes you want to create right away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of guys with so many different sounds, and there's different vibes and things I'm feeling at any moment. But even if I pick it out and don't work on it for like a month or so, like I know what to do with that. Versus like getting a lot of beats from someone because they're hot at the time, and you're like, I just want to like have their name next to my name. Like I don't care about that anymore. I used to be like that, but when I pick producers, like so me and Small Professor have had like so much music together over the years, even before we did Career Crooks as a duo, because I would always be making records and I always get beats from him. I would always write to his beats as fastest, and then I'd always be doing shows, and I'd always have 1 or 2 of his beats in my live set for years. And I was like, why aren't we just being a group? Like, this is stupid. So his beats are like rap made, ready to go, like any Small Pro beat. So we just finished the new Career Crooks album. He's doing post-production on that, but I probably like took like 8 months front to back to pick all the beats, write all the songs, record everything. But like other producers like Ray West or like Barry, Disco Vietnam, or like my homie Quandary, like they all have like very specific aesthetic choices about them. And so I know like if I have a certain idea, I'm like, I know that guy can tap into that. You know what I mean? So like with Ray, it's like a very haunting, like a lot of space. And I know with his stuff, like how I would approach it versus like Small Pro is like rapid, like put it on, I rap, like things come to me right away when I play his music. So it's like they all have like a certain thing that makes them separate, but I know because I'm a producer too, so like I know I'm really good at like figuring out what goes together. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, if this beat's like really busy, then the flow's got to be like simple. You know what I mean? Or if the beat's very simple and there's a lot of room, then you could to put a lot more vocal on top of it or whatever. So it's like being a producer, thinking about it too, like, okay, I know like what are good contrasts, like what's a way to balance this out.
That's dope. So this is so my final question. I really appreciate you taking the time for this interview.
Thanks, bro.
You've had so far. You have music, and you have a long discography, and the Future Former Rapper. That album name is just incredible to me. And every time you've said it during this interview, I was like, God, that's a freaking good name of an album. But if we look at this album, 96 and 96 Mentality, if you were to kind of take, say, one track or maybe even like a lyric from this album that kind of best represents where you are as an artist today, which track would that be, or just which lyric would that be?
Oh my God. Oh, dude. Oh man, 96 Mentality. Oh, I really got to think about this one. I can't even remember the tracks. Because when you're, oh my God. You know why? Because it was like the first album I haven't like performed incessantly and did like release parties and did all that extra stuff. Wow. Okay, there's ones on Future Former, I guess, that like pop out because I've like performed it more and did videos and stuff. This one I just like put out. I was like, yo man, I want people to check it out.
Right.
Man, that's a good question. Live from the driver's seat. I guess like, I mean, it's the one that people really rock with a lot. It's kind of like a tie. It's between Win Duffy and East Big Catalog. And because they're both, to me, like one and the same. Like, those are beats I heard right away. I was like, oh, my God, I have to make music to this today. And so Win Duffy is produced by my homie, The Expert. He's an overseas cat. And he just put up a Spotify playlist of all the songs we've done together so far. It's like 6-7 joints there. He's great. Like, he's the grimy, like, straightforward guy. I love his work. And Win Duffy's titled after this character on the show, Justified. And me and Barry, Disco Vietnam, like the only cats that ever watched Justified. So I kind of like put that song title out there for Barry, even though it wasn't on his beat. And so I picked that because there's a hook I say. I was like, if you don't mind, I've always been a lot of things. I've always been a lot of things. I've always been a lot of things. And I kind of like list off every like job. I used to be a courier. I used to be a butcher. I've been a delivery guy. I've worked in a pizza restaurant for 15 years. I've been a recruiter. You know, I've been a rapper, producer. Like I've had like so many different roles in my life. So I think like that was the first time I like laid it all out on a song. Like,
nice.
You know what I mean? Like I've done it all in an interesting time frame. So that's on Win Duffy, and then I guess like East Bay Catalog is like that beat, man. I was like, yo, this joint. Because I always wanted, like on the hook, I was like, you know, it was like 2,000 Maxima, East Bay Catalog, 22 outfits, and a mic check, Mazel Tov.
Nice.
Because I always wanted to drive a 2000 Maxima. That was like my first dream car for some reason. I just always loved that car. I never had one, and I always wanted one so bad. And then I just said East Bay Catalog because I just love East. I mean, that was like our Bible when we were kids in school. Like that was how you could look at all the fresh clothes every month.
Nice.
So if you were the East Bay Catalog or like a Source mag, like you were the god that day. People would be passing around. You get it back, it'd be all wrinkled. People would be circling stuff. You only get that jersey. You only get these. Not a Rodman's in white. Nah. And then I said, and then the rest part of the hook, I say 22 outfits and a mic check. That's a Capadonna lyric from Slang Editorial.
Mm-hmm.
And Capadonna is like he's a big inspiring figure from 96 Mentality because he's just like so off the cuff, like spontaneous energy, like rhyming, just like I remember like listening to The Pillage a lot when I was making 96 Mentality, even though I dropped 98. Because like Capadonna is just like, you could do like that guy just loves rapping.
Yeah.
He loves words. He loves flowing. Like even watching the Wu-Tang documentary, like he's still like the way he dresses, the way he talks. Like he was just born to be a rapper. That guy. And so he gets like his little dap on the chorus, and then I just Mazel Tov. Wow, just sound dope. And Barry's one of my favorite coolest Jewish friends I ever had. So I was like, I figured he would like that too on the hook. So there you go. It kind of gives you all the things I love in one chorus. Like right. Outside like my family.
New album is 96 Mentality, Zilla Rocca. You could get that at $3pistol.com. That's $3THREE $pistol.com. Zilla, thank you so much for joining me in the library with Tim Heinekel today.
Thanks, Tim. Shouts to you, man. Shouts to Prem for hooking us up, and Wrecking Crew guys, Castro, Small Pro, Call Out Culture podcast with Alaska. We just started getting those out there to everybody.
Nice.
So yeah, man, this has been cool, man. Thank you.
Another sucker, phantom, handsome, bad leg conductor. I thought my grandpa was Frank Sinatra.